What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. There's going to be a graphic there. I am your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New Jersey, Jon Borromeo.
What's up, Brent? How are you, buddy?
What's
Good
up,
to see you, dude.
Good to see you.
This is sick. Thanks for having me in your abode, man.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. Before we get too far into anything,
Sure, please.
plug everything up front. Social media, anything like that.
Plugs, at Borromeo, Boreamao. But you know what? I'm not a performer, guys. You guys know me mostly as a producer, but
Producer extraordinaire.
geez, stop sending me your tapes. I'll just go to your mic. Honestly, I'm only booking people with at least 500,000 followers right now. Come on. No, but guys, I'm all over the city. I love comedy, and obviously, if you see me, don't be hesitant. Just say hello. It's completely fine. You know?
Beautiful. Yeah, you are. I met you through a mutual friend, Dan Lamort. And then I found out you produce all. I didn't even know. I was just like, oh, cool, another cool dude.
Yeah.
And then we met through some other. We hung out through some other things.
Yeah.
And then you're all over the place.
I
You
am.
have all these pictures of all these super big comment, and you're like, another show in the books. And I'm like, damn, dude.
It's pretty cool. I've enjoyed the scene a lot. I'll be celebrating 8 years in this business.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I started up with Stand Up New York formerly in the Upper West Side.
Okay.
And from there, it just it was a calling. It was a passion. You know what I mean? There's nothing there's nothing that anybody else can do that comedians can do. It's unbelievable. It's to go up there and just tell a story in an art form. And to be honest with you guys, a lot of comedians out there just don't have the business acumen. So that's where people like me kind of come in. But instead of being behind a curtain and counting my money, I enjoy the process of things. I know that there'll be failures. I know that there'll be successes, and there's going to be some moments where it's just going to be stagnant. Yeah. And I'm there for the full ride. So.
Yeah, because you're always I think the reason why when I first met you, I just assumed you were a comic was because you were out and hanging. Yeah. And you're a part of it. You're in the group. You're in the scene. You're doing the thing.
I've gained so many friends. Obviously, there are the quote unquote fair weather friends, as we talk about. There are people that just want to know my name. They want to get on shows, and that's fine. That's completely fine. But I've found a connection with a core group of comedians and people that are in the industry, because at the end of it, it's we're just regular human beings. You know what I mean? I've gone and invited to weddings, going to one at the end of May, celebrating with comedians. I've gone to funerals, unfortunately. I've been there, I've gotten pictures of their babies. It's an amazing feeling. You just get this kind of connection with people. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are like me, but I enjoy our industry. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it, because comedy itself is a very niche thing, and I talk about this with all my guests who are in and around comedy. How did you even find stand-up?
So Before I was in comedy, I was in hospitality,
Okay.
and I did events. It just so happens that when I flew all over the world for my previous job, and literally the only solace that I had in an airport lounge or being on an overnight flight was watching Netflix or watching a comedy special.
Yeah.
And it was so fun to do that. And because, I lived in Houston for about 2 years. And one thing that really, I missed home a lot.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to Sirius XM to Jim and Sam.
Okay.
And I used to listen to Opie and Sam. And from there, knowing who Carl Ruiz was, to know who, Bill Burr was, to know who, all those different Pete Davidson, and to hear those voices that I grew up around, and then to hear them in Houston, that was my outlet, dude.
Yeah.
And even though I was mildly miserable down in Houston, I always knew that I could turn on, Opie radio, and I'd be able to hear that, or I could turn on something, one of those comedy stations, and I could hear New York City comedians. And to be honest, I didn't walk into a comedy club till 10 years ago.
Oh,
that was
really?
my first time kind of doing it.
So this is interesting because, and the listeners know this, but I was an anxious, depressed kid, and then my cousin showed me Comedy Central Presents.
Ooh, who was it? What was the one?
So the one that got me into comedy was the Dane Cook one, where he
Oh,
rips
of course,
his shirt off
of
and pours the
course.
water.
Yeah.
And then, because I would watch Mitch Hedberg.
The sweet and sour sauce. That one, yeah.
All over my body.
Yeah.
Not without Coops, baby. Not without Coops. But I remember, I would watch Mitch Hedberg, or I would watch Greg Giraldo or Patrice O'Neill, and I'd be like, oh, I found solace similarly to what you're talking about, where I was like an anxious kid. I was hurting myself. I was doing all these things because I just couldn't figure out happy. Mm-hmm. And then I would watch this and I would laugh, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is an escape from everything, all the shit going on. This makes me feel good. So that's why I'm a little pretentious when it comes to comedy. Sure. I'm very much no. A lot of people joke, we're not artists, we just tell fart jokes. It's we do, but also
there's an art form to it.
You can be both.
Yeah.
We elicit human emotion with words. That's kind of cool. But when I saw Dane's, I was like, oh, I want to do that. So now 5 or 6 years has passed. I'm 16, 17. And then I see him and I go, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Because all the other comics before, it was hilarious, but I was like, I can't do that. Mitch Hedberg, Dufresne Party at 2. I'm like, how did he think of this?
Yeah.
And then I saw Dane and I go, that looks cool. That looks fun.
I mean, I remember back in the day, I don't know if you remember Lounge Lizards. Okay.
I do. That sounds super familiar.
Okay. So Lounge Lizard had the Amazing Jonathan on it, and Amazing Jonathan, that fucking special was one of my favorites. I had that, I taped it on a VCR.
I used to tape 11 o'clock every Friday. I taped all of them.
Oh my gosh. It was one of those things. And I remember just utilizing one of my other ones growing up. My dad was a big Dennis Miller fan. So we used to watch HBO.
Hey, cheeky baby.
Yeah.
Cheeky baby.
So I remember he had this rant about capital punishment. And I actually used a little bit. I stole some of Dennis Miller's jokes as part of an argument about capital punishment, specifically about letting Tostitos put it on the Super Bowl and letting people getting electrocuted live on national television. Yeah. I love that stuff, and I elicited a response. But the thing was, even back then, I knew that I could not do what you guys do.
Yeah,
I do attempt it, and I know that some people have seen me host shows and things like that. But if you notice, if I host a show, it's just crowd work that I'm doing. I don't have bits.
Okay.
I'm just talking to people and kind of like a magician, allowing them to do that. But it's very rare that I want to even get up on stage and do that. So, I hand it to you guys for just, being regimented, going out to mics, writing and being like, all right.
Going right after this.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love the grind of it. It's one of those things that it can be very expensive too. It could be late nights and to hold the fucking.
I literally just said this to my girlfriend the other day. I said, with as much money and time as I've dumped into my career, you think if it was anything else, like an investment or anything, I'd have so much to show for it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if drink tickets were actual monetary
currency?
value, that'd be great. Flop Sweat. I mean, God, I remember when I first got into the scene. 7 years ago, I would go to the Grizzly Pear at 4 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just watch these people just fucking bomb their face off. And then
Grizzly Pear's a tough mic, man.
And then 5 p.m. do it all over again. But the great thing is that as much as that's a grind, I really felt that there were some diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People that are out there and grinding. And it's awesome to see that. It's awesome to see this new class kind of step forward and be the next class of, you know, like household names. You know, like I love seeing, you know, like one of my boys is Jeff Arcuri.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Love
Jeff,
seeing
yeah.
him kind of be at the level that he's at. I mean, gosh, there were years that he was doing check spots for me and like hosting like 2 shows and running downtown for like a 25, like, and then seeing that. I mean, a lot of your listeners probably will hate this, but another one of my boys is Matt Rife.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Matt, I had to cancel shows in Connecticut for Matt when I was running shows for him up there because nobody bought his tickets. And now the dude is selling out. And say what you want about his comedy, but the guy has been out there and he's been grinding.
Well, and that's the big difference too, because we were talking about this last week, but there are certain people who blow up through other avenues that are not comedy, and they haven't done the blood work, like the sweat equity.
Sure.
And then they'll get up on stage and they're trying to do their TikToks or their Instagrams on stage. And they have a lot of followers. They sell tickets. So I get it. It's a business. I've worked in restaurants my entire adult life. Like, I understand.
The shittiest wine, if it has the right sponsor behind it,
Yeah.
and the right
Well, and
branding.
we do like Restaurant Week, and it's
Yeah.
like, we're a great steakhouse. We're one of the best steakhouses in the city. Why are we doing this?
I
And
know.
It's like, because we need to
Outback
get
doesn't
asses-
need that.
Yeah. It's like, well, I did work for Outback for 10 years. But
Fuck yeah.
where I'm at now, it's like, we don't have to do this. And it's like, but we need to get people in here. So it's similarly to comedy, where I understand it's a business and they sell tickets and all that kind of stuff. But it is great having you on to kind of see through the curtain, see through the looking glass, where it's like, I've had comics, like seasoned comics, come up to me and go, "Hey, are you still doing mics?" And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, all the time." And they're like, "Can you please take them?" Like, they need to figure out joke structure. They need to figure. So to your point, it's a very cool thing when you see someone at a mic and you go, "They've got it."
Yeah.
I know they've got it. And then eventually the rest of the world catches up and they've got it.
You can feel it and you can find it. One of my first experiences kind of being in the industry is I got to judge the Comedy Mob Festival.
Okay.
Comedy Mob is
Comedy Mob.
one of the best out there. I love George and Kevin. They're great dudes. But, I mean, I'll tell you, Final Four of that competition, Jay Jordan, Gianmarco Ceresi, and what do you call it, Jocelyn Chia. All comics that are passed at the Cellar, that are on, that have done TV, that have credits. They started just doing mics literally at 6 p.m. over at the Grizzly Pear and just going through it. I remember Gianmarco doing doing guest spots, and I just, it's to see these people grow it's awesome. It's so cool to see that. And you just know, you're like, and I remember Jay's one of those. And Jordan, you know, he's actually put this clip up that he's been called the smartest comedian out there today. I think it was for a Vulture clip. And there was something about him. And when I asked Jay how long he had been doing it, he'd been doing it for like 6 months.
Really?
And it's like, fuck, how do you do that?
Sometimes I run into those people, especially like they'll be visiting from a different place. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I started comedy like 6 months ago." And then you're like, "Okay, well, now you're in the pool with the big boys. You're playing on all Madden mode now."
Sure.
And then they go up and crush, and you're like, "Never mind." Never mind.
Exactly. And
You know what you're doing, kid.
It's one of those things like even like I'll go down. I did the Riot the first year. Went down to Houston. I judged that comedy festival.
Okay.
And the great thing is like this is like right after the pandemic and like everyone was kind of focused on Austin, and there were Austin comics there. And I remember in the back of my head being like, no fucking way that these kids are gonna have anything in their fucking roster and in their holster. And some of them fucking blew me away.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that because you know what? It's not a geographic. Doesn't matter if you're in New York City. Some people just have it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
They're
1,000%.
and they can ping. But you know what? The funniest person that there's so many people that I find hilarious in our business. But unfortunately, in my head, I know they're not going to make it. And I'm not naming names, Brennan. I'm not putting them on blast.
He happens to be on one of their podcasts right now.
No, I get it. But like, you'll see the funniest person that you'll see at at some local bar show, and he's like, this guy speaks to me, but you're never gonna fucking hear him outside of your four walls of that bar.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but you know what? Humor's subjective.
Well, it's not only that. It's because that's something I'm always telling people is like, I've done a set. I remember because I don't think Greenwich Village gets enough credit, Greenwich Village Comedy Club, but it's because of its design. It's a kill box. Like if you fill that room and you're on you can crush. And the tape that I have that I send to you like 3 times a week. No, I'm just kidding. But the tape that I have that
goes right to spam.
Actually, the tape that I do have that I send to festivals and stuff is from a show that I just got added on to. I was off of work on a Tuesday. I texted the guy who produces it and I was like, hey, he's a friend. I was like, hey, I'm off tonight. Can I jump on? He was like, of course, come on by. And it was literally to the point where he was texting his now fiance like, Brennan is like crushing. Yeah. And it's so funny, though, because to your point, I've done that exact same set at other rooms in bigger clubs and cricket. And you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking
it's so subjective.
So bizarre. I mean, it doesn't even take that much, too. You can just cross over the bridge in New Jersey. And what was working in New York Comedy Club is not going to work there.
Yeah.
Which is fun to see, but you know what? It's all about the audience as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you talked about the how that room is set up at Greenwich. It's like you make that front row laugh, it just echoes, and you can't not laugh. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like, you know,
some of these big rooms with the tall ceilings and stuff, you're like, you're killing me.
City Winery is one of the toughest rooms. I remember when Mulaney was running his shit after the pandemic, and like you just couldn't hear the laughs in that room because of the echoing in there. And like stuff that he thought was bombing was like, you know, is on the special now. Do you know what I mean? Because he was able to start doing it in the smaller clubs. But it varies, you know. I mean, listen, all of our idols, you know, like you look at somebody like a Chris Rock, you know, you start seeing their humor, and like all of a sudden, like once they're over in like the stadium atmosphere, it's like, oh, it's lost. Like, you know, perfect example would be Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias, all right? Great jokes, you know what I mean? I love him, but you know, the shtick can get a little old, but you see how it kind of translates, and when he's doing it in bigger places now, in stadiums and having pyrotechnics, the jokes change a little bit because it's more encompassing to all. It's not more intimate. And I like how people can change like that. And to be honest, when you change like that, you have the opportunity for more money, more sponsorships, things of that nature. And you don't have to lose your craft. I mean, perfect example is Nikki. Nikki has been killing it right now. I really hope they fire Kimmel and put Nikki Glaser there. I really do.
Yeah.
You have no idea. I just think that would be amazing. And I love seeing just like the growth from people. I mean, gosh, I remember when Nikki was sitting on the, if anybody remembers the old stand-up New York, she would sit on the booth over there by the windows. And then like, I closed my eyes for a second and she's hosting the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean because I have some friends who have done that. Like where it's not to that level, but it's like people that I was like doing mics with in Florida or doing shows with in Florida, they moved to certain areas and now they're touring all over the country. And like, it's like, man, I remember when we were sitting like at a Waffle House at like 2 a.m. after a show that like 12 people were at, like talking shit.
Waffle House?
Yeah.
How hammered were you at that Waffle House?
No, man, I'm from Florida, baby.
Is that like the jam?
Yeah, Waffle House is just open. It's open 24
hours
hours a day. So like if you're leaving a show and it's 1 a.m, there's so many comics in Florida who aren't sober per se, but they just don't drink.
Yeah.
We would all just go to Waffle House and just gorge our faces off.
I will say I was driving back from Houston and it's a long drive. It's like 24 hours. I stopped in at Waffle House in Athens, Georgia, and I was exhausted. I had like a cup of coffee, but I had the country steak there. Yo, I swear there had to be like some resin of a little bit of meth on that because I fucking made it home and I was fucking wired. Like I don't know what it was, but maybe it was like that guy that just like, he's just like, he needs a little something over there. It was fucking.
Waffle House it gets a bad rap because fights break out and the staff doesn't care and it's a whole thing. But the food for the price is actually not.
No, it's.
I would put Waffle House price, like the price to food ratio versus most diners in New York.
Yeah.
Like, and you're paying like a third, and the food is just as good.
I will say, I used to be this bougie fuck when I was still drinking. Like, I would be like, I would hide my McDonald's addictions and stuff like that. Like if I was traveling, they'd be like, oh, let's stop at a Waffle House. No. There's going to be like some brunch place we can go to because I knew that there'd be booze over there. But now that I'm sober, Waffle House, That's my jam, dude.
Dude,
I gotta say, it is my jam. I stopped in one in Elkton on my way down in Maryland, on my way to go see my sister down in DC. Yo, hits every time.
Every time.
Every time.
The waffles are so good. And I always get the big platter that has like everything. And I'll be like, can you send my waffle out like later? So it's hot?
A little dessert action.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll do it. They're like, yeah, I don't
Yo,
fucking
what
care.
is that margarine? That's got to be like pure lard. That's fucking, dude. It's so.
It on everything.
It looks like an ice cream scoop, and like it's made yellow too. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my god, what is this?
And lard, and it's so good.
So good. Like I would snort that. It's so good.
Well, let's talk about it because you did, as I know, but for the listeners, you are sober.
I am.
How long have you been sober?
I've been sober 2 years
Boom.
and 3 months. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you. Yeah, one day at a time. Put it in the comments over there, baby. Go ahead.
Keep it simple, baby. Keep it simple.
Yeah, all of the isms. Put them all down there. Yeah, it's been good, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about it because you said you got into comedy 8 years ago, but you've been sober for a little over 2. So what was that like when you first, like, are you partying? Like, because let's go chronologically.
Damn, I'm going to qualify in front of everybody?
Well, I just want to qualify the comedy aspect of it.
Sure.
So when you get into, like you said, you like walked into a comedy club 10 years ago. So 2 years before you started, what was the transition from like enjoying comedy, loving comedy to I want to be involved with this?
It was very simple. I mean, I'm not like you guys, all right? And so I wanted to be like you guys. I wanted to hang with comedians. And the easiest way to do it is to buy myself into your love.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like
not wrong.
Now, like most comedians, you guys don't make the most money in the world.
Yeah.
So being able to buy drinks and being that guy that could be Mr. Fun, that was really to my advantage. You know what I mean? I'm the funny guy in my group of friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But compared to you guys, like it's I mean, if you've ever had the opportunity to sit with all comedians and them just riff and being a fucking a nomad, you know, a muggle, and just watching people just bing, 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 like Keith Robinson against Mark Normand, against Jim Norton, against Big J, you know, in the cellar, like that is better than the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wanted to be that. And the thing was like, I knew my limitations. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to hang, you know, like, and I mean, Liz would have thrown me out if I wanted to be the big man on campus at the cellar. But I could take my own club and I could at least hang with people that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Ego was a huge driver in my drinking and partying. It's because, like, if I didn't have it, then why would you want to hang out with me? And that sucked.
Yeah. But I mean, I understand that because it's still something that's ingrained in me because it was like kind of a joke growing up. But my dad was in sales, so our quote unquote family motto as a joke was who's your favorite, whoever's buying.
Right.
So like growing up, that was kind of like, you know, we did it. It was like a fun thing, but like even like I've been sober coming up on 7 years. And even still, like if I go out, like I went out to dinner with my cousin when they were in town last week and I was like, I've got it. Yeah. Because it's like, this is, and I think it's something super buried in my subconscious, but it's like, no, when I first moved here, I had a bunch of money saved. So when we would all like be writing and like go to Chipotle, I'd be like, don't worry guys, I got it. Yeah. And everyone was like, dude, that's awesome. Because comics extensively in the early years are poor. Yeah. So they were like, that's fucking sick. Yeah. And I thought that's what I had to do to make friends. Yes. So it's still, like I said, 7 years and it's still in there, like rattling around where it's like, oh no, I have to like provide something for people.
Of course. And that's the thing is that like I can provide spots, but at the same time, like it was one of those things that you're people pleasing, you know, along the way.
100%.
You want to be their friend and I want to be their friend because I like being around them. And instead of opening myself up and being like, hey, I'm pretty cool too. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like but you know, the ego kicks in and it's like, suddenly it's like, you know, you're known as the quote unquote daddy. You're known as the party place to go to. And
let's call John. John's always got something going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I was able to kind of buy, I mean, my relationships were able to buy me some great, you know, French, relationships. I've hooked up some people that you'll probably see on television with stuff and drinking and had wild nights with them. And to be honest, like if I really look back, like I probably could have gotten there without doing any of that at all.
I think about that all the time.
It does not suck. It's like, I mean, I will tell you this story, and I think I said it to you, but so it was after the 9/11 show, the Pete Davidson and Jon Stewart show. We went to the Chappelle after party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did. And that was one of the greatest shows in a long time because it was right after the pandemic. All the comedians were on stage. It was just an amazing feeling to be a part of the atmosphere. And the after party happened. And I bought so much Coke. So much. Like it was 3 a.m. and I had my dealer put him on the guest list to come in to a Chappelle party.
Damn.
Yeah. And I didn't, and he was just fucking making loot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing.
It's an expensive habit.
It's a very expensive. I dropped about like $1,500.
That's nuts.
Now, mind you, this is a Dave Chappelle party. You don't have to pay for drinks, but I still paid $1,500 just on drugs. I don't know where half these drugs went. I partied. There were so many times I would just walk in the bathroom. I would just forget one of my bags because I just gave it to somebody.
What?
Yeah. I'm fucking, like, it's my party. I'm just like, here, everybody have fun. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
I want everyone to have a good time.
I want everybody to have a good time. Like, I mean, that was a bender that lasted. So the show was on 9/11.
Never forget.
Yeah, never forget. And then I partied. I came up for air essentially 9/13.
Never forget.
Yo, that was one of those moments that I was just like, "Fuck, what happened?" That was easily like $5,000 that I spent.
That's nuts.
Over 3 days.
So, because money has always been a thing for me, as we were talking about, like spending.
Yeah.
I remember I got a settlement, and I've got a bit about it. It's more of a story, but I got a settlement for $26,000.
Fuck yeah! Oh,
and this is when I was like 23.
Oh my God, how are you still alive?
And very good question. And I remember I spent, luckily in Daytona, it's mainly baby aspirin. It's not actual cocaine. Which is probably how I survived.
Yeah.
But I remember I checked my bank account 28 days later, and I was negative. So I spent $26,000 in 28 days. And in the bit, I always say, because even shitty Coke in Daytona gets really expensive if you do enough of it.
Sure.
But I was like walking into strip clubs, and I would change $200 into ones and just throw it up in the air.
And just fucking walk out of the place,
And
probably.
I would literally throw it up, and I'd be like, I'm here. Someone come clean this up. And I'd walk in, and I was buying everybody drinks, and I would pay for dances, but I was raised like with sisters and stuff. Like I was raised around a lot of women. So I would pay for dances. And then when we'd go to the back, I'd be like, just tell me, like, what are you trying to get out of life?
Oh my God,
what?
you tried to give them a fucking psychoanalysis?
Oh yeah. I'd be like, so like, what do you try? Like hammered out of my mind
You
being
must
like,
be so fun. How
being
did
like,
you...
you're so pretty. Just let's talk.
Yeah, like, do you want to go to dental hygienist school or something?
Can I take you to dinner or something?
So what is that, a C-section scar? Or
Dude, I was wild, but it all was like, oh, if I just buy stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember going in, and I think I talk about this in the one man show or the bit or something, but I remember going into that same strip club that I had spent thousands of dollars at over the course of a month when I was negative. And I walked in because they just let me in. And I was like, hey, guys, like, I kind of blew through all my money, but can I just get a drink? I'm like shaking, DTs and stuff. And I was just like, can I just get a drink? And they go, wait, did you just subtly mention? Like, they basically were like, wait, you said you're out of money? Like, almost like, did you try to sneak that by us? And I was like, yeah. And they go, you got to go, dude. And I was like, but I thought we were friends.
yeah.
And they're like, no, man, you got to go.
Yeah.
If you don't have any money, you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah,
And then I still didn't get sober for like 7 more years.
Exactly. But it's the excess we want. For me, it's a disease of, well, it's for everyone. It's a disease of more, at least. You know what I mean? I want more. And like, even in my own sobriety, I still struggle with that on a day-to-day basis. Last week I was dealing with some financial insecurity. I was just like, I had money in the bank. but I didn't have enough money because I was waiting on a couple of payments that I wanted to do fun stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to go skiing, and it wasn't like to blow on booze or drugs or anything like that, but I just didn't have that cushion that I usually have. And I fucking was breaking down for like at least 24 hours, and that sucked.
Yeah.
That was a feeling, but when I took a step back and I was like, you know what? I got a house, I got heat, I got food in the fridge. It's okay. I have a little bit of money in the bank. As soon as I gave myself those kind of like, hey, like, I mean, it was gratitude that I started thinking about. I felt a lot better. The next day, I went negative for the first time in my bank account in, God, I would say 15, 20 years. And it was just like all these different bills that were like end of the month had come in. And I was sitting negative in my bank account for fucking like 3 days. And I'll be honest, I should have fucking went insane. I didn't.
Yeah.
I stayed completely fine. And that was something that was like so bizarre to me. And I was looking at it from 10,000 feet, and I was talking to a friend of mine. And I was like, geez, if I didn't have X amount of dollars in a bank account, I would have still had money. Like let's say my threshold was $3,000 in a bank account. If I had 1,000, I would beg, borrow, and steal just to get myself up to $3,000 again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that comfort.
Just that comfort, just to know that I have that. And it's like the difference between now and like, God, how much, if I think back of how much money I spent. I mean, Brennan, I'll tell you, in my first week of sobriety, okay, so my first week of sobriety, I took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was like something extreme. It was like 190 over like 110 or something.
That's high.
Really high.
That's high.
So my mom was staying with me at the time, and my sister, who's a nurse, they're both nurses. I was like, my blood pressure is like really high, and like I've got a little bit of chest pain. And they were like, we got to go to the hospital. And so I was like, all right. So I go to the hospital, and you know what? I had a fucked up blood pressure machine. I really didn't have that.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but she takes my blood pressure. It's like, it's a little high, but it's not that high. And so I'm fucking thinking in my head, and I'm looking at my Amex and like all my credit cards, and I'm calculating how much money I spent. Now, mind you, I have like 6 or 7 days sober at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to calculate how much I had spent from literally October 2nd, which is my last drink, all the way to the beginning of the year. And I looked at that number. I mean, we're talking travel, we're talking Ubers, we're talking everything. You know what I mean? Anytime that there was booze, anything that was over like $100, I mean, it was a lot of money, dude.
Yeah.
It was.
I'd say, man,
Yeah.
I still, because it's one of those things too, where it's like, it's a sick system in my head, but it's like a reward system.
It was a little under 6 figures.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude, it was insane.
Dude, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because like I said, it's like kind of a reward system where I'm like, well, I don't do these things anymore, so I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not.
It's Pavlovian of
Yeah,
us,
it's
you know what I
not-
mean?
yeah,
Which
exactly.
is
Where it's like I did something,
that's how I drank. I
Yeah.
said to myself,
Treats, yeah.
yeah, treats. Oh, I got a contract signed. Oh, we had 50 people in the showroom tonight.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's bust out the good scotch. You know what I mean?
Let's party.
Yeah, let's party. Oh, he's in from LA. Oh, let's get a bag of Coke. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
that's, I look back at my drinking and boozing and my drugging, and the happiest I was when I got that text message saying, I'm outside 78th and Broadway. That was my favorite moment. The rest of it was all fucking downhill from that.
Yeah.
I did that one toot in the upstairs bathroom at the old stand-up New York, and it was just fucking
Now it's
game
a party.
over, baby.
Now it's a party.
Yeah, but that was the happiest.
Yeah.
And now it's like I'm sitting at home with my dog on a Saturday night watching shitty ABC sitcoms, and I'm fucking ecstatic to do it,
dude,
man.
Dude, it is, and it's interesting too, because my addiction, because I'm naturally an addict. Like I played sports my whole life, so when I got to college, I would party and stuff, but it was football. Like that's what I was addicted
So
to.
broy,
And
dude.
then, well, I mean, I played football and I was very invested in it, but I'm not like guys in the locker room would be like, "Hey, did you get any pussy last night?" And I'd be like, "Oh, gross! Don't talk like that.
Ew, stop it. I'm allowed to do that. I'm gay, by the way.
That's gross." I'm not, but still, it's gross.
I've been
Don't
like, yo,
talk
let's take that towel off, motherfucker.
But it is interesting because my addictive tendencies, obviously when football was taken from me, when I couldn't play anymore because of my concussions, I dumped that into booze and drugs, and that's how it kind of got off the rails. But for me, being an addict has been incredibly beneficial for my comedy career because it has taught me the only way out is through. So like, it doesn't matter. Like I know people where they've been passed at clubs. They're very funny, but they're like, I just don't like doing this grind anymore. And then they quit. And I'm like, but in my brain, because of what I've gone through as an addict and what I've put myself through, that just does. And even before that, like when I was playing football in high school, like my coach literally said at our senior like banquet, he goes, Tass, if I tried to make you quit every single day and you never quit. And again, that goes back to, I'm just naturally an addictive person. But for me, it's actually helped me in my comedy career because it's like, it doesn't matter how many no's I get. Like there is no other thing. Like there is no plan B. You can't, this is something I heard on a podcast many years ago, but it's always stuck with me. If you have a plan B, you never had a plan A.
Oh God.
And so
that's fucking,
God bless you. It's terrible advice. It's terrible advice. But it is something I have lived my entire life by.
Yeah.
It's the worst advice you could ever give someone. But as someone who thinks the way I think, it's like, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And like I took the LSATs. Like I was going to go to law school. Like all this stuff was in place, but it was like my drugs and alcohol stopped me from doing that. And then I found comedy, and comedy literally saved my life when I was younger and then when I got older. Because when I got sober, I remember saying to my sponsor, I go, if it's meetings, the gym, and working 2 jobs, you can have it back. Like I don't want this life. And I remember him saying, you have to, 1, it's service work, and 2, you have to find something you're passionate about. And he was the one who said, you've been obsessed with comedy since I've known you. Why don't you get back into that? And that kind of changed the trajectory of my whole life.
That's interesting. Because I am
psychotic.
You know what it is like you say that, and for me, I'll be honest, I love structure. Yeah. And right now, because I don't work for a specific club anymore, I only eat what I kill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I've got a lot of quote unquote irons in the fire. Do you know what I mean? So like money comes and goes, it's great, but there's no structure, dude.
Yeah.
And I've been looking for that. And I mean, I'll tell you, and God, I guess your listeners now, that
It's only a few thousand.
Yeah, that I've been thinking to myself, like, I want to just get. I have actually. I applied to a job at a pizzeria.
Yeah.
Just to have some structure, and like making boxes every day, like something along those lines. It's amazing, what I thought my life was going to be versus what my life is now.
Yeah.
And suddenly things are aligning, and I'll be honest, I love our business. Yeah. But there are some points in the last couple of months where I'm just like, another brick road. There's a little bit of me that almost like 50-50 that if I was given the opportunity to do something that was service oriented, and I'd have to be completely out of the comedy business, I'd probably take it.
Okay. That's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
And I know, and it's nothing about the industry. I love our industry. Yeah. I love how it's an ecosystem. I love that, that creamness, that we have, very talented and, very smart and brilliant comedians out there. But it's getting tougher out there as a business.
1,000%. And I don't want to misconstrue what I'm saying is, because you're very right about structure. And it's funny because as invested as I am with stand-up and with podcasting, with all this stuff, it's an incredibly rigid structure that I actually have. Yeah. So it's like I'm off Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. Thursdays I normally spend with my girlfriend. But like even when I texted you about doing the show, I said I try to record on this day at this time because that's
I need to find that.
But see, that's what I'm saying. It's like I wake up every morning and I go to the gym 6 days a week, every day. I work Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, almost every week.
Wow.
But so like to the point where like I completely understand what you're saying, but when I say I just keep going with comedy, it's not because it's like it's willing, like the comedy, like my life is incredibly rigid in its structure. Mm-hmm. And like when my girlfriend is like, hey, let's go away for a couple of days, I'm always like, yeah, but then I'm going to miss the mics on Wednesday. I'm going to miss the show that I normally do on Thursday. Right. Like I don't. So to your point, I sound like a crazy person being like, it's only comedy.
No,
but that's just kind of like, but I still do it within a very rigid structure.
And that's the thing. Like, you have it as a passion. It is not, your full time. It's not your complete 1099. It's not all your income a year.
Exactly.
This is my income all year.
Yeah.
Every single 1099 is entertainment related.
Yeah.
And it's the thing about it is that you're
that would be incredibly unsettling.
You're an artist. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. But I have a couple of shows that cancel on me. Like, that just fucking puts me through a loop of things.
Yeah.
And to be honest, no comedy club is going to be like, I'm making more money now, quote unquote, than I've ever been because I'm on my own. I don't have to answer. All I do is I deal with venue and artist.
Yeah.
And that's great. Do you know what I mean? Everybody, my MO has always been, I eat when everybody else eats.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
very similar. Yeah.
And I've chosen all my productions to be that. And it's worked out well, but there are some scary moments like last week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I hit negative and I'm just like, oh boy, I'm waiting on this fucking check. Do you know what I mean? And thankfully, the payments hit. But there's a scary thing. And, we talk about a fear of economic insecurity. And there is, but the great thing is that that'll never leave, but the way that I act upon it
1,000%
is completely different.
So different. We had a thing with the paychecks at work last week.
Yeah.
But I was just like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, whereas before I'd be like, I'd walk into my GM's office and be like, give me my money now.
Give me the cash and that bottle of scotch.
Yeah. And like, you guys figure it out. This is your fuck up. You do it.
Right.
But to your point, it's now it's just like, all right, I'll borrow cash from my girlfriend, put it in the bank, and then once the paychecks get figured out, they get figured out.
Exactly. It's one of those things that sobriety has taught me that I don't have to fucking fly off the handle anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I take that pause.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? But you know what the great thing is, and you know what's funny is that, like, I walked into a 12-step program, and that's been very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love how this new age of of influencer is kind of using 12-step stuff. So it's like gratitude lists and, prayer and meditation and things like that. And it's cool. And like, I don't hate on it, but to be honest, listen to some of that hype. If you're not, in a 12-step and you're just like trying to get center-minded, that stuff works. People like Tony Robbins, like, they utilize some of that 12-step stuff. And if I didn't have it, like, I was just actually, and I shared this, it's like one of the old timers used to say, I came in for my drinking, stayed for my thinking.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've been doing now.
Yeah.
Like, I am further away from a drink than I ever have been in the last 2.5 years, which is awesome. But I am so close to those things that are going to lead me to it. Do you know what I mean? So if I take that pause, I'm just like, all right, cash is low, whatever, this canceled over there. It's like, what else can I do? Well, I have the availability that I could get a job at a pizza place.
Yeah.
That'll recover that $200 that I missed on that last show. I have the availability that I have a pretty good CV that if I wanted to get back into hospitality, I probably could. Yeah, my life would absolutely fucking suck and I'd have to work weekends and I'd have to be all over the place.
Yeah.
But whatever. Do you know what I mean? And here's the plug. Day at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's the other great thing about it too, is like, I've been able to your point, and it's so fascinating because people in New York have never seen me drunk. They've never seen that side of me. So it is interesting because
that's interesting.
Sometimes people will push me a little bit. And it's like, I got the scar on my forehead from a fight I got into in college, hammered it out of my mind. I cut my own face open to prove a point. And I was like, I'll fucking kill you.
You fucking cut yourself, put blood on your chest, just like, let's fucking go.
Very, very similar to that.
Wow.
The story I tell on stage, it's an intense story. But I say all that to say, like people that I was around growing up knew that I had a lever. Like, knew that once that button was pressed or that switch was flipped, like, it's see red, react. But nobody in New York knows that, Brennan.
Right.
So I will still get pushed sometimes by people who think they're being funny. And at first it is funny. We're joking around, we're messing around. But then they keep going and keep going and keep going. And what my sobriety has taught me, and through the help of all the different stuff that I do, was I literally, this happened at work a few days ago. My GM, who I'm very close with and we're super tight, was like doing a bit. And it was funny and I was laughing. But then she kept doing it. And then 3 hours into the shift, she was still doing it. And at one point, I remember I picked up a wine glass and I go, I will ruin your budget for next month if you keep going. Like, just start breaking shit. And I said it as kind of like I'm being like boisterous, like just almost like, oh, he's messing around. And that's how I wanted to portray it. But in my head, I was like, I'm almost there to where I'm going to start breaking shit. And luckily I didn't. Through, you know, I went into the bathroom. I got on my knees. I prayed about it.
Right.
I literally like did all the things, all the tools that have been put in front of me.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's like, I am so much better now than I was back then, but that person still lives in there.
Yeah,
that person's still floating around in there.
Of course. And that was the one thing. It's like everyone in this industry knew me as the party guy.
Yeah.
Like, you knew if it's you finish your spots after the 10:30 show on a Friday or Saturday night, text John.
Yeah.
He's probably out there fucking partying. Do you know what I mean? I would walk into any bar and at least two people would come up to me and be like, yo, you got it. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Yeah. When fentanyl started being a thing, people would come up to me and be like, hey, man, you got to be very careful. There's a lot of fentanyl. Like, the fact that my coke use was out there was just insane. Do you know what I mean? I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, once I got sober, that was the difference. Is there were some fair weather friends that like I don't talk to anymore, and it's because I also don't put myself in those situations. I'm not hanging out at clubs or bars when I don't have to anymore, and that's been very helpful. But I will be honest, the reception that I've gotten from this community has been awesome. Yeah. First of all, there's a lot of us. Yeah. You know what I mean? In this.
I've had many of them on the show.
Yeah. And it's like, it's awesome to feel that way. And, you know, it's funny. It's like, I go to a lot of meetings in Jersey. I live in a very rural area. So when I tell them what I do for them, they're like, oh, is it tough? And I'm like, to be honest, no. Yeah. It's like, I'm actually going to shows tonight, but I'm going with a sober friend of mine. Do you know what I mean? I'm hitting a meeting prior to that. One of my favorites, though, was a buddy of mine who I'm still pretty close with. He's like, I was like, yeah, I quit cocaine and drinking. And he goes, well, I guess I quit cocaine and drinking as well. And I'm like, you motherfucker.
Dude, that is
spigots off, guys. Like, not happening anymore.
Baby.
Not happening anymore.
I do find that fascinating because it is an interesting thing where it's like, when I was telling people that I was so, because obviously when I first went to rehab, I was telling everyone I was sober now, even though it didn't take, and that was on me because I didn't do the work. But it was so fascinating when people were like, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. And I was like, I wasn't that bad. And they're like, you were worse. You were way worse than what you think.
Yeah, there are opportunities. Like I had the opportunity to go to some after parties, and I just chose not to. Yeah. You know what I mean? I knew what the environment would be. And the great thing is that I'm still getting the invites, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Do you know what I mean? It's awesome. And but I do question sometimes. Yeah. I question it once in a while. And I'm like, if I was still out there running, would I have better stuff?
I think about that sometimes too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, if I was like staying, because a lot of times I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm by nature an introvert. Uh-huh. So a lot of times, like, I'll go do my spot, I'll grab some food, and then I'm home. Or like if I get off work, because it's equidistances between the stand and the cellar. When I first moved here, I was at a club every night, just doing the hang, meeting people. But now that I've kind of ingratiated myself into the community, a lot of times I get off work and I'm like, well, there is an N train in 2 minutes. Yeah. I could catch that, or I could go. And if nobody's there like that I know, then I walk in, I look around, and then I miss that N train. I go back to the train. I have to wait 15 minutes. Yeah. So it's like, I might as well just go home.
You also live in New York City. Yeah, it's very different. So like, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that aren't in New York City. Like, how could you not hang out every night? It's like, because people live here now, and it's a chore. Yeah. Like, the N train is in 2 minutes, not a problem. The next one's like 65 minutes after that. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like,
and to be honest, to your point, I do hang out a lot.
Sure. I'm sure you do. And
I'm trying to like validate. No, I really do. No, I'm really into this business.
But that's the thing.
John, I swear.
It's like, but that FOMO still hits me all the time. It's like,
oh, when I see stories.
Oh yeah,
from, like, parties at the stand the next day, and I go, I'm friends with like 7 people that are at this party. Why did nobody text me? Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I often will go home before 12 o'clock at night.
Exactly, yeah. There was a birthday party at the stand last week, and I just didn't go.
A big one for a very big comic.
Very big comic. I just didn't like I'm friendly with everyone over there, but it's like, it was fucking cold. Yeah, I didn't want to go. Because you know what? That's my life now, is that like, yeah, I'm still gonna like, I sent a text message to that person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I saw that other people had a good time, and I'm not fear of missing out. Do you know why? Because I got to fucking hang out on my couch with my dog.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? At the same time, my heat was off that day, and because I was supposed to be there. That's what I was going to do. I was going to do this podcast. I was going to go bounce around the city. I was going to go to that party, but the furnace broke, and all I did was I did what was in front of me. I did the next best action. I could have easily been like, fuck it, I want to go to this party, but like, at what cost?
Yeah.
Like, so I would have no heat for the next day as well?
Dude, yeah,
No.
it was freezing.
Yeah. So it's crazy that, like, you know, my life is different now.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different, but it's still the same. I'm still the same John.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm still the same too. It's just, and it's weird too, because sometimes I still do drunk things, and by that I mean like I'll say something that I know I shouldn't say, but
Yeah.
I'm like, this is completely sober minded, and I'll be like, this is going to be hilarious, and then it's not hilarious.
Oh, when it doesn't land?
I'm like like a lot of times, like I'll be with civilians, and I'll be talking the same way I would around comics.
Yeah.
And it bombs.
Dude, okay, so
Bad.
this is kind of fucked up. So I was after a meeting, I was hanging out with like a newcomer and like a couple other like newcomers in the program, and they had mentioned that this guy had shaved his head, and I don't like this guy, all right, at all. And I immediately said right after that, "Is it cancer?" And they're like, "No, he just shaved his head." And I go, "Too bad." And everybody was just like, what?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, fuck, I am not around comics right now that would have fucking...
That would have killed.
Yeah, that would have fucking killed in that instance. You know what I mean?
I do it all the time because my girlfriend's a school teacher, and a lot of her friends, they've gotten to know me now, and they know it's all out of jest. But a lot of times, like, someone will say something, and then boom, I don't even, because, you know, that's just how my brain works. I'll just do it. And then she'll go, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yo, that's when I'm just like, progress, not perfection, baby.
Yeah.
We are not saints. That's
I wanted to ask you, because we don't have a ton of time left.
Cool,
but
go.
You did send me a ton of stories.
I did.
I wanted to ask you about the homeless guy backpack and then the 18,000 in a night. Those are the two I definitely want to ask you about.
So, you know, one of my other addictions, besides drugs and drinking, was sex.
Yeah.
I, you know, because it gave me a result. Do you know what I mean? And the only way that I got the sex is through drinking and drugs, for what I thought. So, I was kind of scummy, I'll be honest. I didn't partake in it, but I used to find meth heads.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I was scummy, dude. And there would be these guys that just be like, that looking for a place to stay, and like I'd be in a hotel room. And I remember this was one thing is like, I treated these people like garbage. Not garbage. I was very nice, you know, like, hey, you could stay here, take a shower, whatever. But I knew I knew what they were there for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember this guy came in, and he was younger. He had to be like he's like the quintessential like meth head that comes in from fucking, I don't know, like Indiana. You know what I mean? That comes to New York City for big bright dreams, and all of a sudden, you know, one night at the gay club, and he's addicted to meth. Do you know what I mean? Super sad. And I say this, and I know it. I don't have any compassion, but I do. But at the moment, I didn't. And super cute. But yeah,
Also
fucking
super cute.
rockin' body because he was on that meth. But yeah, I remember he had like this dilapidated fucking bag, and I had an extra backpack, and I gave it to him, and I was like, "Yo, man, like this is yours," because this is what I would do. It was so cheap in the pandemic that I used to get 2 rooms in a hotel.
Really?
And I would have a smash room, and I had a room that I would go back to, so I'd let them fucking crash in that room. And so I gave him a backpack, and he started crying. And that was one of the first moments in, I guess, my using where I was just like, fuck, people have it bad out there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have a low bottom. I didn't get arrested. I wasn't thrown in jail. I didn't go to rehab. I just had a realization one day. And I think about that situation, and I think about where that guy is right now. And it was like one of those things that, like, I gave him a backpack. I mean, the guy was literally breaking the light bulb to smoke meth. It was insane. But I remember the tears welling up in his face for that. And it was just like, Oh, you are such a scumbag, Jon Borromeo. It's just one of those feelings. And like, wherever this guy is, like, I hope he's good now, but fuck, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough.
It is. Yeah. We have those moments, and I know I've had plenty of them where I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah. Brendan, I had security kick him out of the room.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Because I went to the other room and it, like the checkout was at 11 and God, it was like 9:30 in the morning. And like, I was like, hey, there's somebody in the room. Like, you know, it was hooking up with like, you can throw him out whenever. And they're like, you're sure? And my room happened to be like 2 over and I could hear them like knocking on the door. And But you got a free backpack out of it, dude.
Yeah. And he got to shower?
Yeah, and he got this dick.
That too. Yeah, that too.
I hope wherever he is, she's probably not listening to this because he probably doesn't have the money to have his phone turned on.
See, these are the things that get us in trouble.
This is really in front of regular people. They'd be like if I qualified with that story, they'd be like,
Fuck this guy.
you scumbag. I'm going to do it at a CMA meeting fucking next week.
I have a problem with that on stage sometimes. Because I will get on stage and I will open with something super dark.
Yeah.
That's my style.
Yeah.
And as Sam Morrell has pointed out to me and to people who watch him and listen to him, he's like, you can't open with that.
Yeah.
You have to build the trust, which is something I've now learned since being in New York. Because in Florida, people eat it up. They're
Sure.
like, fuck yeah, DUIs and jail and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But up here, they're kind of like,
yeah, you're doing this in the Upper East Side, and
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, excuse me.
yeah, this person has a problem.
Yeah, and they're just like, it's a bottle of pills.
And even when I do other people's podcasts now, it's very important that I'm like, let's do the fun. They're like, oh, so let's talk about your arrest. I'm like, let's do the fun stuff.
No. Like, I'm glad that you fucking brought these up, baby.
Let's do the fun stuff.
Thanks for
letting
letting me close on the $15,000 night because I'm gonna sound like such an asshole. So one night, boys come into town. My buddy works. He's the CEO of a pretty big PR company. Our buddy,
the biggest company.
yeah, our buddy flies in from North Carolina. We party one night. We go out to Kata. It's like this great restaurant, and I don't eat anything because we go to my friend's office prior to that. And it's the middle of like April. And I go on his computer and I pull up YouTube and I play Let It Snow and I just dump out 3 bags of cocaine on the table. And that right there was like $150. Little did I know is that $150 that I had spent was going to be times 1,000 by the end of the night. Between that, Kata, we decided we would buy a bunch of food that we never ate. Our bill had to be about $3,000, $4,000 with tip. And this is for 3 of us, mind you.
Yeah.
And picked it up, you know. And mind you, my friends do much better than I do.
Yeah. But we have that mentality.
Yeah.
Like, I got it.
And of course, bags of Coke are gone, so I had to re-up. But I had to get another guy, and he's like, this is fish scaled. This is good. So boom, I drop another $1,000 on cocaine, all right? So if I ended the night on that and we went to some other bar, some like speakeasy. We did, what's the shit that makes you hallucinate, they say? Absinthe. So we did this. They're doing a whole fucking show with like, it looks like somebody's doing
like
meth. Yeah, it's like the flame and everything like that. And
They use like a dripper and a beaker. It's a
boom,
whole thing.
$2,000 right there.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So now we're 5, 6, almost 7 in the hole.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say we're at 6 because then we decide to go to PhD.
What's that?
Okay, PhD is this. It's a nightclub, and it's really a bridge and tunnel nightclub. It's not like New Yorkers go out there. This is where, like, if you're from Jersey or Long Island, this is where you party because it's got views of the city and everything like that. This happened to be the launch of Ace of Spades.
Okay.
As well, like
Champagne.
It was just in the same month that, for some apparent reason, I bought.
I know where this is going, and I don't like it.
I bought a couple bottles of those.
I don't like this at all, John.
So
I'm getting anxiety sitting here right now.
So they come over and they're like, "Hey, can we have a credit card?" And then I was just like, "Oh, it's probably gonna be like a couple, like $2,000, $3,000." So I threw it, gave him an Amex Platinum on there. Oh my God! So the bill comes back and she's smiling, and at the end of the night, and I was like, "Oh, cool." I open it up. It was for $9,500. This was 3 guys who had just came to party because our buddy had come up from North Kakalaki. And we are
Take your shirt off and throw it around your head just like a helicopter.
$15,000 that night. I snapped out of my high
think I'm gonna
so
throw up.
quick.
I'm gonna throw up.
But $9,000 in one spot. I think I'm still paying that credit card off.
yeah,
Actually,
1,000%.
that was by far the most. I remember that we also bought this bottle of tequila that had like this little stake of like silver in it, and so we were gonna go to a pawn shop. The next morning, we fucking woke up in Weehawken, and we just didn't want to do anything, and I just ate that $15,000 that whole night.
God.
We still talk about that at friends of ours, like
Yeah.
like of how crazy it was, like the amount of money that I have spent in partying and drinking is disgusting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I wasn't in comedy at the time when I did this. I was in another job, but Jesus Christ, like when I look back at that, it is, I can't say that I even had a good time that night. I remember throwing up in my buddy's like half bath, and I clogged up his drain because I was just vomiting stuff. And like, it was the most insane thing. And I never have to go back there again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
I never have to do that again. It's just great, which is great.
Yeah, it's God. There. I remember when I got my settlement, and I went to a bar one night, and I was like, "Oh, if this happens, I'm buying everyone in here around." And it happened, and I bought everyone around. And I remember getting that bill and opening it up, and it was like $982. And to me, I was like, "No problem. I've got
22.
Yeah, I'm good." But still, like thinking back on that, I could not fathom opening a bill for $9,000.
It is
Like that, I already put my card down for.
the shame has like there's a lot of shame, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame. But there's also a lot of times that I look back at that, I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, but it's true because it is one of those things where now, like, again, you know, you have over 2 years, I'm coming up on 7. It's one of those things where we can look back and be like, oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing that, you know, we talk about a lot is like the only person that can relate to someone like us is someone like us. So it's like, oh no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And that drops in the bucket. Like go to if you're in the program, go to a meeting like in like downtown and Wall Street. Christ. Like when I mean, they've lost people's livelihoods. You know what I mean?
Fucked up.
Being
Yep.
fucked up. And the thing about it is that like I never have to feel like that again. And like there's no more fear of missing out on that anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
so much.
Yeah.
So much. And I'm so grateful that it's like, I see those pictures from that birthday party and I'm like, that's cool. Like, whatever.
yeah.
But like 7 years ago, I would have not only been at that party, even though the person who it was for, it doesn't drink.
Yeah.
I would have been so drunk. I would have been going up to him and being like, come on, just let me open for you,
Yeah,
man. Let me just, come on.
yeah,
I'm funny,
yeah.
you're funny, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it
Which
would have
is
been-
somebody probably did that.
Yeah,
Do you know
and
what I
it would
mean?
have been the experiences that I have given me the strength to continue forward where it's like, oh no, yeah, I don't have to do that ever. I don't have to be that guy ever anymore, ever.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
I'm fucking stingy as a motherfucker now, though. I really am. I picked up fucking end meats. Does everybody know what end meats are? End meats are after they fucking at the deli in cases, like whatever's left over and they can't cut, they have that as like a little sale. And yeah, I pick those up now.
Let's go.
Because it's awesome. Because it's actually good flavor because it's at the end and all the flavor is over there.
That's what I've been trying to tell people.
I am cheap. I'm a cheap fuck now. I'm such
Dude.
a miser, bro.
This was so much fun. Plug everything one more time. Let everybody know.
You can follow me at Borromeo. I'm probably not going to allow you to, though. It's a private account, to be honest with you. I really don't want to be your friend.
Still got a little bit of it in him. Still a little.
Still a little bit because he had me talk about that story that I dropped $15,000 in one fucking night. But definitely check out one of my clients, New Yorkers. Go follow them. We're almost at 1 million followers right now.
Hell yeah.
Come hang out at the shows with us. Yeah, make funny content. You know, keep doing you guys. You guys are fucking awesome.
Keep doing you, baby.
The guy from Meth that I threw out of that hotel room. I'm so sorry.
He made his amends.
But if you're still hot, like.
He definitely will allow you to follow him. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. I've got dates in Boston, Connecticut, LA, Florida, all coming up in the spring, so get your tickets online, and we'll talk to y'all next week. Boom.